Welcome everyone to The Rift. I am your co-host, Jeremy Culver, aka Darsay.
And I'm Kyle Gloria, aka Kairu.
Kyle, we have been going through so much when it comes to the off-season, getting geared up for the season to start, the spring split, and even though it's still cold outside, well, that spring split starts tomorrow, and we have the games for the LEC and as well as the LCS about to get underway. It's going to be a great time to see how these new rosters are going to shape out and what the new players, the new faces in EU especially, are going to bring to the table for their teams. But, as always, how we start every episode, Kyle, how have you been?
I've been good. As you said, I'm stoked for this to finally start. I've been waiting for this for a little while now. As much as I love off season and enjoy the moves, the rumors, and everything else, when the games start happening and everything, and your team starts playing, if they're doing well and stuff, it's always a fantastic feeling. So I'm definitely looking forward to this.
Yeah, I think for most teams, most sports, of course, everyone always looks at the beginning of the season as this is our year, even if your roster doesn't seem that good. And I think that's no different for a lot of these teams. There's a couple that probably are, yeah, this isn't our season. But most of them, fans are probably excited for it. And I know you, no matter the sport, off-season, you love it. But yes, it is time for us to get into the games. And we're going to do in this episode all things for week one. So we're going to talk about some of our biggest games for the LEC as well as the LCS. 2 games each day. And of course, talk about what we think and how we think those games are going to turn out. But just so that people are aware, we know that there has been a lot of changes when it comes to the LCS and LEC formats, mostly the LCS, and how everything is going to shape out when it comes to playoffs and, of course, the days that the games are going to be going on. But that will all come out in a different podcast, a different episode where we are going to break down all those changes. The only change that, of course, we will make mention of is that the LCS will now have 3 days of games instead of 2, and that third day is on Monday nights. So, Kyle, real quick, before we get into the actual games, I do just want to ask you about that. What is your thoughts that the LCS is now transitioning into a third day and it is Monday night games versus, you know, a Friday or anything else on the weekend staying at 2 days?
With how big esports have become and the viewership for league and what have you, it's a move that they're trying to get more viewership overall. Having that many games in 1 day, 2 days is a lot to watch, especially games that you're not it's a matchup that no one's really looking forward to. So they're going to try to highlight their Monday night games, kind of like a football, the NFL. You got Monday Night Football. Usually they try to get the best game of the week on Monday nights because that's the viewership wise. They're trying to get those numbers jam packed in there, and so it'll be interesting to see how it does transition. To see how many of the viewers will go from watching over the weekend to that Monday night. I'm definitely looking forward to see what those numbers do bring.
Yeah, and I think you're right. You hit the nail on the head. They're trying to appeal to more of a premium time slot. Of course, that's what Monday Night Football is it's looked like as a premium time slot. And it comes at a good time for them when football is ending. So any people who are fans of gaming as well as traditional sports, you're not going to have that Monday night slot filled every week like you did when it came to the football season. Of course, you still have basketball and hockey and things of that, which will have sports, days throughout the day that are going on, or throughout the week, excuse me. But now they do have that chance. And of course, as you said, it also shortens the days of the other day games, because on Saturday, instead of having 5 games, you now have 4. And on Sunday, same thing. Instead of 5, you have 4, where the LEC will still have those 5 games. So that's could potentially be 1 hour less of content on those days, making it maybe more of a digestible time for a fan to watch all those games, and now have, again, that extra premiums on Mondays. I just am curious how much that will change in viewership for them. If that's gonna benefit them having that third day. Of course, that's one more day of sponsors being looked at. I just want to ask Kyle, with that, again, before we dive into the games, it's just like with other sports. You set your Monday night games based on the thought of what is going to be some highlighted games, some great games that are going to be going on, even if it is weaker teams going up against each other. What games could bring some excitement? Do you think that could backfire if both games are steamrolls or one-sided week in, week out?
If it's a consistent steamrolls week in and week out, it could, as you said, not work out as well. But I think their overall thing is they're trying to get two teams that I think the other thing they're trying to do is get teams more highlighted. Since there's only 2 games every Monday, it's not one, it's 2 games matches. I think they're also trying to highlight teams, and I think they're trying to put together a schedule that you have 2 teams that seem pretty similar in skill wise that they feel would end up being good matchups. But like you said, if it's a consistent steamroll, it's potentially 2 hours. So I think that's what helps it out a lot, though, is because it's 2 hours of league on a Monday night. I think most people will still join in for that.
Yeah, I just hope that they aren't steamrolls because, with traditional sports, when there are consistent blowouts in a premium slot, even with it being a premium slot, people start to turn it off. And I hope it's successful for them. And I do think it is more of, as you said, they have announced it is for trying to highlight some teams because a lot of teams felt they were not being highlighted week in, week out, which is leading to them not getting as much fans. That also plays a factor of how those teams perform, in my opinion. But that isn't a thought of it. However, I think ultimately it is just having an extra day to highlight sponsors, which of course means more money for Riot and League of Legends and the LCS, which of course then means that there is more longevity for the league. And we think about it, this has been going on for 10 years. Of course, the LCS weekend leagues have not been around that long, but competitions for League of Legends have been around for 10 years. You see a potential for drop-off at some point, but if you can keep highlighting sponsors and keep money flowing, then, of course, that's less likely for it to fall out. All right, well, let's get into the games because, obviously, that is what everyone is here for, is to break down these games. And, Kyle, we get kicking off tomorrow with G2 Esports and Mad Lions, but let's discuss what is your game that you're most paying attention to on tomorrow's schedule.
I'm going to skip all the way down to their last game tomorrow. I'm going with Fnatic and Origin. I'm really looking forward to this game, obviously, because Fnatic had a strong showing last year, making it to Worlds. I had a decent showing, obviously, there as well. I mean, all EU made it through. And then the new Origin team with not complete new, but you add Upset in there and Darsay in there, and it's just, and I mean obviously Destiny too. So I mean half of it is new, but I'm definitely looking forward to that matchup. It's the new Origin. As you know, I'm a big Upset fan. And I think Origin's one of the teams, as I stated in the previous podcast, that I feel can be a top 4 contender this year. And week 1, it's a true test against a Fnatic team that has one of the best junglers joining them in Selfmade. So to see how Selfmade will gel with Fnatic, and on top of that, to see how Upset with Destiny and the new Origin lineup can compete against one of the top teams that's consistently up there. It's a matchup I'm definitely looking forward to see how that plays out. Week 1, like I said, it's always hard to say on who's going to do what because it's week 1, but it's a good test to start out with.
Yeah, and I think you kind of talked a little bit about it. One thing, it's no coincidence. That's why it's the last game. You want to send people home with a great game. And, of course, the hype around Fnatic in general is always going to be there. But Origin and this new squad or this new set of players is definitely something to pay attention to. And And especially with the acquisitions that Origin have, Darsay, obviously a top-tier jungler joining this squad. With Cold stepping down, this kind of helps people, get an idea of Cold obviously was a good jungler, not a top-tier jungler, but a good jungler, and had matches that were top-tier. But Darsay, consistently top-tier, obviously why he was rumored to potentially be going to China, because he's that good, and people expected that to happen. Upset, obviously, really good ADC, rumored to be joining a lot of different teams, including TSM, if I remember correctly. I'm having a brain fart, but I think it was TSM that was rumored to be.
And Cloud9.
Yeah, and Cloud9. But looking at, again, TSM, they obviously a very high prolific fan base that a lot of people look at as when you join TSM, you're joining a top tier team. I know Cloud9 and you being a fan of them, that's a top tier team too. But I think you could admit, there's no secret, a lot of people, they look more hype of TSM acquisitions versus other teams, including my team, Team Liquid. People don't get as hyped about those as they do TSM ones. But again, Upset, high-quality player, why he was looked at joining there. And then again, looking over at Fnatic, we talked about it in our video breaking down the LEC changes, is Selfmade, obviously, in both of our opinions, one of the best junglers when it comes to EU in Selfmade, and he's joining a former teammate, Nemesis, when they both played for Mad Lions. That should help that gelling with the team happen faster, because they have a history with playing with one another, and they were very good with one another. So you already have a highly supportive fan base behind Fnatic, and you already still have great players on there like Reckless, like Hylissing, and of course Nemesis playing really well as a rookie last year. And then you throw in Selfmade in there. I will say, just even though I'm not a huge fan of him, Whippo obviously still seen as a very top tier top laner as well. But then you throw Selfmade in there. That's two really looked at performing well rosters together. This could be a great matchup. I will give one caveat, and it's something that we talked about with the LEC before. I think the matchup really will rest on what Nuke Duck shows up. That's going to decide whether this is going to be a great game or one-sided. And that could be for both teams, where it could be if Nuke Duck shows up as the amazing Nuke Duck that he can be, there is a chance that Origin rolls over Fnatic. There could also be a chance where if Nuke Duck shows up to be, the Nuke Duck that is really good as well, might be a close matchup with Fnatic. Or it could go downhill if Nuke Duck is not shows up as the feeding Nuke Duck. So
exactly,
I think that's an important thing to keep in mind with how this matchup goes. Kyle, with this matchup, is there any specifics that you're looking at, and who do you think is going to come out on top?
Obviously, I'm going to look at that bot lane. I want to see how Upset and Destiny can gel together. I really want to see him go against a Reckless. I mean, well-known high-class ADC, someone that has a huge following and everything else will always be known as one of the best. So it's a really good test for them. I will say, though, as much as I love this Origin team and want them to do really well, for week one, I kind of I obviously have to give the edge to Fnatic still, and I believe they will take this game one, just for the fact that other than Selfmade, that team's still basically the same. And even that, Selfmade has played with Nemesis before, so it's not like it's not anything completely new. Whereas in Origin, they got 3 new guys coming in. So I have for week one, I have to give the edge still to Fnatic and believe they still will come out on top.
Yeah, I look at this as a toss-up because, as you said, with 3 new players going to Origin, you never know how the full squad is going to gel on week one. So as much as it pains me because I want to pick against you and just so that way I have bragging rights, I'm going to go with Fnatic on this one as well, just because, again, much more of an idea of how this team could perform. And then again, you're only throwing in 1 new player, but he already has a history of playing with one of your better players in Nemesis. So I think that team is going to gel fairly well together. For myself, when it comes to that first day, I'm actually looking at the matchup that could be very surprising in my opinion, which is Rogue versus Misfits. So the reason that I'm looking at this game is, we talked about what were our the teams we were most excited about heading into this roster, and this goes for the LCS as well as the LEC, and I know I said it, and I'm pretty sure you said it too, if memory serves me right, is we both said this Rogue roster. We thought that the Rogue roster made a lot of good moves, a lot of good changes that could really propel them to being a top-tier team contending for qualifying for Worlds if it gels the way we think it will. And so, of course, that's why I'm so focused on this week one is I want to see this Rogue team, how it performs against a team that me and you both have agreed that we do not think is a very strong roster in Misfits. If they stumble against this Misfits team, even though it's week one, that will make me more reserved to crown them as a contender. Because I know it's week one, and we just talked about it with our talk on Origin and Reckless, and Fnatic, where a lot of people will say, you're being hypocritical. You just said week one, Origin might not gel, but they could be a better team later on. Well, there's a difference between, not gelling and falling against a top-tier team and not gelling and falling or barely getting by of a weak team, because that shows that there could be inherent weaknesses within this roster. I look at this, I think that this team is going to steamroll Misfits. If they don't, then of course, then it's going to be how close or how much of the changes were made on, gelling issues. So, team fights around objectives, map movement, warding, things of those natures. If the team falters because some of those are not there, then I might go, okay, it's just gelling issues. But if it is misplacement in team fights, if it is overstepping, if it is just essentially really bad calls, then that starts to become a problem.
Yeah, you've pretty much said it. I would have to say Rogue, you have to highlight Hansama and Larson because of last year. Larson obviously started steamrolling and stuff, but then towards the end, fell off majorly. So was that just a phase, a bad break, or what have you? Or is it something that, obviously, is it something that he can come back from? New year, fresh start. Hansama with Misfits, they had a terrible year. And Hansama did not look good like he did when they first came in and everything with Misfits. Because Hansama was like the next ADC. He was the next guy that everybody else was talking about, like upset and what have you. Like he was the guy, and he fell off majorly. Now, as I said previously, is that because he's playing with Gorilla, which can't really speak a whole lot of English, and Hansama being as quiet as he is, did that affect it a lot? Now he's coming in and he's able to play with Vander, which I think could help him out a lot. So you need to highlight those two with Rogue to see how well they do. And as you said, I think this team just should be able to steamroll this Misfits team, but there's a lot of questions about this Misfits teams and how well these guys that are stepping up is stepping in for them and how well they do. So for them, it's really hard to say. I believe it's Febvin starting for week one. I would assume that he is, but
I think we talked about this before, and if I remember correctly, I think Misfits do have him starting at first. But
yeah,
I'm not 100% sure on that. So while you're talking, I'm going to look up and see.
So with this roster too, a lot. I mean, I'm not. Dan was one of the lowest placed top laners last year, and Finn was one of the best. So I mean, if you look at even jungle, top lane, the top side of the map there, I think obviously is advantage Rogue just alone. That alone, if Febavin's starting, what Febvin are you going to get and what Arsons are you going to get. So that's going to be a big key matchup too on who's going to be able to control that mid lane. And I'm still trying to figure out myself from playing. Is it mid lane control or is it bot lane control that's going to control the Drakes? Because I think it's going to be a mixture of both. With bot lane, obviously you want to control that bot side because of the fact that if you get that push, two people could roam up to help the jungler with the Drakes. But if that mid lane's also pushed up, I mean, that's easy Drakes there. Mm-hmm. But if one lane's, if they're one lane's good, one lane's bad, that jungle focus is going to have to be focused around one of those lanes majorly. And that's what's going to be interesting too with these junglers on how they're going to path now with knowing how well the Drakes are in these new patches and the new changes. But Rogue, though, I think should be able to steamroll overall.
Yeah, I agree. And I, based on my early play, I still think it is a mid lane focus when it comes to the controlling that, so they can rotate down to get the Drakes. But it is definitely a combination. So with me doing a quick search, I have not been able to find anything on Misfits' page that points to who's starting and who's not. But if I remember correctly from our previous talks, it sounds like at least in the first game, it is going to be Febvin, and then from there we'll see when Ronaldo will get to start. Who knows? It could be the second game, and it could be one of those rotation bases where they cycle back and forth. Kyle, so day 2, got Saturday. Which game are you? Or actually, I forgot. I'm going to start with this first one. And for me on day 2, and it's simply just going to be because of, I think that the matchup is more of an even level on day 2, and I'm going to be looking at the game between Mad Lions and Vitality. So, of course, for those who maybe have missed our recent podcast and missed a bunch of the news, Mad Lions is old Splice. Of course, Splice was sold and bought out by Mad Lions, who will now be entering the LEC for the first time. So this will, of course, be the second game that they'll be playing. So it won't be their first game in the league. But we talked about it in our discussion before, and essentially this Mad Lions team is filled with a lot of questions for us, just because it's a lot of new faces, a lot of new people that we don't have a lot of background with. So, I look at this changing of the teams and who's going to be the carriers for each team, and a lot of it, in my opinion, or at least the person that I'm paying attention to the most, and that is Humanoid. I look at Humanoid on this Mad Lion squad because, for me at least, he is the man that you brought in last year to carry this team or turn this team around. Mm-hmm. He, of course, had a lot of hype around him, just like Nemesis did, and Humanoid played well, in my opinion, but he never stood out. So he's already had a year under his belt. He has a time to see how things go. Where does he take that next step on this team? And then, of course, for Vitality, I look at the fact of you lost, one of your faces in Jizuke. You now have a new guy in your mid lane. And I'm going to just double check to make sure it is who I think it is. It is Milica. Can this guy do something? Is he going to step up? Is he going to be as good as Jizuke was when Jizuke was playing, of course, at a very high level, a top tier level when he first rolled in? And of course, Team Vitality, as we all know, stumbled a little bit in recent splits. That's why I'm really looking at this game, not for any reason of I think it's going to dictate who is going to be a top contender and who's not. It's more so which team is going to be a solid team that you still won't be able to overlook, and which team is going to be one that me and you will be sitting here in future podcasts saying, yeah, this is probably an easy win for future matchups.
Yeah, this is, as you said, this is a very player dependent matchup where you go through and figure out who these players are. Who do you like? As you said, this is their second game, so we'll be able to have after the first game how they adjust into the second game to see who's consistent, who performs well in both days, because it could kind of give you an idea then where this team's going to focus around. I'm interested in Carzy, how he ends up playing throughout as well. He's supposed to really good player, and then Humanoid consistency. Can Humanoid, as you said, step up to be that hyped guy that everybody talked about at one time? Then when you look over Vitality, Cabochard, what does he still have? Right now, it's a very brawler, bruisey top lane, so Cabochard might be able to do some things on that team like that. He's known to play his Lucian top and different things like that, and with it being so damaged, bruiser right now with the meta, you can pull out picks like that, just kite and go one-on-one versus those type of guys. So Cabochard is a guy I look at that team being a veteran presence as well, to see just how well he can control the game himself from the top side, which is really hard to do. I mean, you're relying on winning your lane top side and making your flashy TP plays to turn fights around, which the TP itself can obviously dictate a lot in the game. And then, like you said, Humanoid versus
I will say
in
real
that
quick.
mid lane matchup.
I will say
Yep.
real quick, just because I talked about Milica. I didn't see this, which actually came out 2 days ago. There's been an unforeseen visa delay for
Oh,
Milica, so Sakin is actually going to be
Stockings
playing in the
actually
mid
starting.
lane for them, over Team Vitality at this moment. But still, it goes back to, for me, in that regards, and you kind of were just labeling it there. What will Humanoid do in this mid lane matchup, even though
Mm-hmm.
it's not who is going to be the long-term starter for Team Vitality and Milica? Sakin obviously has been playing with Team Vitality in the LFL League, and this has some time with this roster. So what is that going to be for Sakin, or for Team Vitality and Mad Lions, as we roll out these future weeks?
Yep, exactly. And then Attila too is like another guy that's been around for a little bit now, so it's interesting to see how he does from split to split. And this is a one issue about week one in league and LEC and LCS is always the visa issues, man. It's you always want to see the full team together,
Yeah.
and it sucks when you gotta wait a week or 2 weeks, sometimes three, for that to actually happen.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, that's going to come up later when we start talking about the LCS. And a big name that,
Mm-hmm.
of course, that I was looking forward to is not going to be able to play. Also, Zyra wants to join us for a little bit because she says, I'm tired of listening to dad talk.
Yeah, my
So,
cat's
so let's talk a little bit about your game when it comes to Saturday. What are you most looking forward to on that Saturday schedule?
I'm actually going to go. We talked about the one team, so we don't necessarily have to talk about them completely in this, but obviously we'll figure out who we feel is going to win. But I want to talk about the Rogue Excel game, because I feel Excel has gotten a little bit better overall as a team. And I'm really curious on what Young Buck, being the coach there now, can really bring for this team, how well they can perform for him, how well. I mean, he's known to be one of the best coaches in all league. So I really want to see what he can do for this team. If Rogue comes out and dominates week one, like I feel like they should and can do, I want to see then how well this Excel team can perform against a Rogue team that's supposed to be a top contending team. So it'll give a good feel for what they're about. So and curious on Mickey and how well he will do, because consistency problems. Expect I'm not a big fan of, but Young Buck loves Expect. So it'll be interesting to see how his coaching can help Expect somehow adjust to the mindset of playing EU top lane and not be so worried about the jungler all the time, being able to trade and what have you. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. And as you said previously, Patrick's a guy that we're both kind of really meh on. We're not biggest fans of, so I feel like that rogue bot lane should dominate that. But it's a good test for a team that has a really good coach. To see how well they do against a top contending team. And that's even if, like I said, Rogue comes out and performs, or do they lay an egg because they're overhyped? Mm-hmm. So I'm definitely looking forward to this matchup because of the coaching and little changes that XL did make.
Yeah, and I think you pointed out my first thing that does make me intrigued, and that's, of course, having Young Buck as your coach,
mm-hmm.
and arguably one of the best coaches in the LEC. So how does that help a young squad? Because overall, even though some of these players have been around for a little bit, they're still fairly young. In my opinion, you look at Kairu, remember, he started off as a mid laner, went to jungle, has been playing well in jungle and playing even better and getting better. So does he take that next step? Does Young Buck help him take that next step? And then, of course, yeah, this squad has a lot of players that, in my opinion, play well or have played well on other teams. Can they put it all together as a whole in this squad without one person that you definitely put your finger on and is like, this guy is a star and that can help this team? Because almost every team has that one player at least that you put a finger on and you're like, this guy is a star. The other players just have to help make that star be able to carry them or be able to get on a roll. I'm a bigger fan of Expect than you are. I think that he's kind of had some issues with squads that he's been on where there hasn't been that other player that can carry, and sometimes it's been people underperforming around him. But I think he's done fairly solid when it comes to lane-to-lane matchups and how he handles against opponents. I've just spoke about Kairu. I really like him, and I like that play. Mickey, you already know I was a fan of him, of course, when he was on TL, and he subbed in for a little bit, played well, but since then has been very inconsistent and not very good. Patrick, as we already talked about, meh in both of our opinions. And then Tor, I like Tor. Obviously, this used to be Norskaren, changed his name to Tor, so now we have him, him there. I like him. I think he's a solid support. Does that help Patrick, elevate his game, or does Tor, in my opinion, succumb to the environment around him and get pulled down by Patrick? That could easily happen. I think Rogue wins this game. I don't see, as I talked about in our breakdown of the LEC, I don't see Excel being that good. I see them being middle of the pack, lower in the middle of the pack, but I don't see them being bottom of the league. And that's just simply because I think Kairu's a really good jungler and could get things going for them. But I'm not expecting much with this matchup.
No, yeah, I agree. I think Rogue wins this one as well. Overall, I think they're just a better roster, and it'll be exciting to see a 2-0 Rogue team that starts out strong instead of a team that starts out slow and then made a run for the playoffs. So I would love to see a strong start from Rogue, and this is a perfect week for them to do that and show how dominant they can be, especially against teams like this. If they come out dominant both days, it's a really good look for them.
All right, well, now we're going to move over across the pond here to our homeland in the North America LCS, and games kicking off on Saturday. Kyle, what's the game that you're most looking at for the first day of 3?
I'm going to hold off on this one just because I'll save this one for the next game to talk about if you pick it. But I want to look at the I'm actually curious though about the FlyQuest and Immortals game, just because of the fact that there's two teams. Immortals is a team of a lot of old players. I really want to see how well they can gel and perform on the main stage. And the FlyQuest, you have Power of Evil going over there and Ignar. So I'm really looking forward to see how well that team can gel. It's a random matchup. I was going to originally maybe talk about CLG game, but with obviously we have visa issues there as well with Crown. So I kind of want to skip out on that one. But overall though, FlyQuest and Immortals, I'm looking forward just just it's more of a curiosity thing. How well can Xmithy play with Soaz? Because I know Soaz has made a bunch of tweets that people are, about how people say I'm done, people say I don't have it anymore. This is my chance to prove that I could still play and compete, be one of the top laners. Excuse me. Xmithy, a guy that's been really consistent throughout his career, having a team that's not quite as good as the COG teams were or the TO teams, how well he could perform overall on a team squad like this. Then you have Ica coming over, not stepped away from the LEC, but he was demoted basically and ended up playing for French league, not the main stage, a big league like that. So I'm really curious on how well Immortals plays together, and then overall, I'm curious on with Ignar playing next to a I'm gonna go kill myself wild turtle because I'm gonna miss because I'm gonna jump in and I'm just gonna it at times. Can Ignar, being an aggressive player that he is, follow up with that and create plays instead of making plays that shouldn't happen because Ignar is that good? And in Power of Evil, being a very passive player, it'll be interesting to see how he performs against a team that likes to be a little bit more aggressive, especially with one of the better NA top laners in Viper.
Yeah, I agree. And sorry, I am having to keep my dog busy. One of the big things that I'm looking forward to this matchup is that Soaz versus Viper matchup, because of course me and you are both big fans of Viper, and I also chuckled a lot when you talked about Soaz saying, this is my chance to prove that I can be a top tier guy, and it's like it's easier to say that than show it, And I think that that's the most important thing when it comes to how does this matchup happen is how do these older guys play against these younger guys. And of course, that doesn't mean FlyQuest is all young. They have a lot of veterans on their team.
Oh yeah.
But it's a squad of players who haven't been playing as long as a squad of players who've been playing for basically since the inception of the leagues. I'm curious to see Ica, especially against a Power of Evil, who we have talked about it before. We know what Power of Evil brings. We know what he's going to play like. He hasn't changed in a number of years, his play style. And Ica, had some times or some moments last year where he played fairly well. And then, of course, they had times and stuff where he didn't play so well. Over in his respective league. So I'm curious to see what this is going to be like for these two teams, but I think in the end FlyQuest wins this and should win this. If they don't, then that means two things to me. One of two things, I should say. Either one, I am overrating FlyQuest by a lot, or two, I am underrating Immortals by a lot, because just Immortals should not be. If Immortals, let me rephrase it. If Immortals wins a close game, okay, sometimes those happen. But if Immortals wins, like if they take control and they just win this game, then yeah, like I said, it's one of those two things. And the most intriguing matchup, the thing that I'm going to be paying attention to the most is that bot lane. It's fascinating to me to have Wild Turtle and Ignar in the same bot lane. We talked about how exciting that was. And then you look across the lane and you're going to have Arrow and Hakuo. Like that lane, I hope that they roll out the lane cam that they've done a few times, and for this matchup, it's just that bot lane, because I just want to watch it and how these two work against each other.
Give me Blitzcrank.
He's gonna. I guarantee I guarantee there will be a Blitzcrank ban in that first game against them too. I don't see
Give me
them
Blitz.
giving Ignar Blitzcrank.
Yeah. I gotta kind of. I'm giving the edge, obviously, to FlyQuest as well. I think they're gonna take it, but I kind of have to root for them. They replied to my tweet about finding a second team to root for over this split, and they replied. So
They did.
I
Did you
kind
buy
of
it?
have to. I not yet. I will though. I will one day have by the end of the split. I will have a shirt or something that says
And we
FlyQuest.
will bring it on the podcast, and you will wear it,
Yep.
and you will show it proudly, and then we will clip that and send it to FlyQuest and go, "Here you go. Here's the show proof." For me, of course, you said you skipped it, and I know why you skipped it because you knew I was going to choose it. And let's just talk about, of course, the opening game, which is going to be Team Liquid against Cloud9. Obviously, both teams have changes. Team Liquid has a change that is also another change that is not what they wanted, which is, of course, we talked a little bit about it, but visa issues, Broxa will not be able to play this week. And the thing that I find most interesting but also scary is that they haven't announced who is going to play jungle for Team Liquid yet. Of course, they've made a lot of jokes on Twitter saying it was going to be Pole Belter at one point.
Yeah.
It was going to be Olivia or whatever. I always forget her name, but like I know the caster that or the analyst who does all the interviews. Like they said it was going to be her for a little bit. They've said it's going to be other people. Like they've jokingly posted they're doing tryouts for their jungler spot. I think it's going to in the end be Pole Belter. Only because I think that they're going to keep Mike Young down in the academy, and I think that they want to keep it that way. I would hope it is Schernfire. If you guys remember, Schernfire was signed to Team Liquid to play jungle as well, and so I would hope it's him. I don't think it will be though, because they haven't said anything about him in a bit, and so that's the only reason I think it's going to end up being Pole Belter, which then, in my opinion, makes this game a little bit harder and a little bit tougher because Pole Belter would be playing out of lane and returning to a new team that he doesn't have a gel with. I know he's a coach for these guys, an analyst, not the head coach, of course, but it's going to be interesting in that factor. But then the reason why I also would be hesitant when it comes to Pole Belter playing there is because Cloud9, I think, has a fairly good squad, and you give them any kind of advantage, and then that's going to be a problem. That's going to be more of a reason that Cloud9 could win this game. You give them any kind of advantage, Cloud9 is notoriously always taken advantage of those. And Blabber has already shown shining moments of being a really impactful jungler, so that's where I am scared of this matchup simply because of the visa issues, and of course then we don't get to see the true potential of both teams against each other.
Yeah, like I said, overall on paper, this game is like hype. Obviously, you start the league off with the two best teams to me, Cloud9 with the new bot lane, and then adding Blabber into all time, a starter full time against the top seed TL that's been, just consistently winning constantly. The thing about the whole jungle situation right now, it does suck that Broxa cannot join them right away. But if Pole Belter starts over Mike Young and a position that he does not play, what does that tell you about Mike Young? Like that makes me a little bit worried about that per se, just because of the fact that why sign him? Why have him if you're not gonna? He's a jungler for a reason, and he's previously. It's not like he has never played on stage. Obviously, he's played for TSM. He's played for other teams. But you throw in Pole Belter, I get veteran wise, like he's been around for so long and has played. I'm sure it's not like he doesn't know how to play jungle, but the fact that it's a role that he doesn't play on a regular basis on the main stage, and there's gonna pick him over Mike Young kind of says something. I'd be all up for Schernfire. I would love to see what he can do right away on the main stage. And then if he does really well against Cloud9, to me, it shows you have somebody behind Broxa that you can depend on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a really good look. But overall, though, if you look at this, double lift, Core JJ versus Vulcan and Sven, I cannot wait for that. I am stoked to see that matchup because Vulcan, up and comer, carried his team basically to where they were at in the support role, which is hard to do.
Mm-hmm.
And is Ven trying to redeem himself from the terrible TSM play? I'm looking for it's a massive test for them, and I cannot wait to see that matchup.
Yeah. I will say, so real quickly, speaking on the Mike Young factor, I would feel the same way. I do feel the same way. If Pobelter starts over Mike Young, you start to question what kind of player Mike Young is. Obviously, he had a lot of high hopes and expectations when he first came out in the league. That's, of course, why TSM ended up bringing him in when he originally played for Echo Fox, and people were expecting really big things. That didn't happen with TSM. Of course, he goes to Team Liquid because Team Liquid said that they still see things in him. I wonder if it is this case. What if it is shot calling wise? What if it is that they don't feel Mike Young has the shot calling potential yet on this team, and they need someone who can help with the shot calling? Because obviously we already know Double Lift is one of the main callers of the league and probably will be one of the main callers for this team because Xmithy is no longer there. Who knows, maybe Broxa does kind of step up and be more of that shot caller, replacing Xmithy. But maybe that could be the case, and they look at Pobelter as being a good voice in the jungler spot if that is the case, the situation. What I will follow
I can see that too.
What I will follow up with is, according to Gamepedia.com, they do have that Pobelter will start in place of Broxa. And this was apparently, to them, according to them, was announced on January 8th. I know that there was the joke back then that was announced that he was going to play, but literally they have not said anything since, to my knowledge. And I was literally just looking earlier about it, where they even have a photo of Schernfire, Broxa's cardboard cutout, I should say, and Pobelter, and it says jungling intensifies. I don't think they've announced who is actually going to play. Hopefully it's Schernfire, in my opinion. But we'll find out. Going to speak real quick before I say who I think is going to win. When it comes to Cloud9, the thing that I'm looking most forward to is what you just talked about, Sven and Vulcan. What will that turn out to be? What will that end up? What will that end up being as a focus for this team? Can Sven recapture what his glory and his play has been in years past, or are we going to see the most recent Sven that we've seen on TSM, which is fairly good but not great? And then, of course, Vulcan now on a different team. How will having a player like Sven with him turn out for him? I'm not expecting a whole lot because I will say, and maybe you agree with me, maybe not because you are a Cloud9 fan. I think when you are going up against a bot lane of Double Lift and Core JJ, that's asking a lot. That's asking a lot. That's a great, that is, in my opinion, and I might be showing my fanboy, but I'm just looking at bot lanes. I feel like that is the top bot lane. When it comes to a lane head-to-head matchup, Core JJ and Double Lift is the top. And how close can you get to them is the biggest thing, and can you take small advantages that do present themselves because of Double Lift and Core JJ's aggressiveness. But I just don't see it really working out, at least in week one, and so I still think no matter who you have as jungler in there, I still think Team Liquid takes this game.
Cloud9's taking this. Come on, man. Let's talk real here.
Oh.
I will have to agree though with the Pobelter Core JJ. they have to be one of the best spot lanes. I mean, when you perform like you do and you're coming out as champs yet again, there's no denying it. Like it's just a matter of who catches up to them and which change support ADC can do anything against them. So that's why I'm really looking forward to that too, to see how well that matchup can that bot lane matchup turns out, because it's a true test for them.
Yeah, definitely. So let's get into Sunday. Or wait, did we do it? Yeah, we did. All right, it is Sunday. To talk about things, and the matchup that I'm actually looking most forward to on Sunday. And I'm gonna skip one to go to this. We've already talked about one of these teams, but I am actually interested in the other team, and that, of course, is the FlyQuest versus CLG game. The end of the day there. We talked about this because, or me and you talked about this yesterday, because me and you are in a fantasy league, E1 Fantasy. If you aren't in it yet, I don't think you can get in it now, because they are only letting 10,000 people in, but Kyle and I are in the league at the moment. And we were talking about in the draft how hard it was trying to figure out who to go with because of the money capacity that's in the league that you have to spend. And then two, you don't know what week one's going to turn out for any of the new teams. Like, it's just how it always goes. But the one thing that I ended up going with was Stixay as my ADC, and that was simply because I felt that in his matchups, he has an easier time with who he's going up against. And the reason being is, one, Stixay I still think is a really good ADC, and that's not to say, again, that I think FlyQuest is going to be bad, or that I think that in their first matchup, Dignitas is going to be bad, even though we do both think Dignitas is going to be pretty bad. But it's more so because I do think that CLG made some good moves, some good changes that will make them really good. Now, you already talked about the Visa issues again with Crown. So, again, we have other issues that are going on outside of a lot of teams' control. And so we won't get to see the team's full potential in week one. But I still think when you look at this team's squad, when you have Wiggly, who's performed better in the jungle spot, you bring in Smoothie, who I think is a great replacement for Biofrost in the support role. And then in top lane, you have Ruin, who, again, has been hit and miss, but I think is still a pretty good top laner. Probably will be middle of the pack when it comes to power rankings of top laners. But I think this is a good squad overall. So my only question, as always with a new team and making this many changes from the previous year roster, is how do they gel together, and what is the play calling on important objectives going to come out? And that's why I'm really interested in this team for that reason.
Yeah, as you said, 6A overall is always consistent. Like, even if the team's doing bad, his numbers are always good. Like, he's a really well-rounded player. Wiggly is a guy that's one of the better known junglers as well. Another C9 guy, go figure. Ruin, it'd be interesting to see how he goes from last year to this year. It just sucks that Crown can't be there, because I really want to see this team as a whole, just because this team had, obviously, just the addition of Crown jumped up dramatically in my rankings, and I'm really curious on, obviously, this team as a whole. But at Tuesday, they're starting mid laner now, right? If I'm not mistaken, for this weekend. So
yes, I think that's correct.
It'll be interesting to see how they do with somebody that's not a champion, like. And shot calling wise, it's interesting to see Smoothie come into the role. Basically, the biggest downfall for Smoothie that I've consistently is hearing is he has too much of a voice. Like, he speaks over everybody. So, like, that's what all you hear in game is his voice, which they say is more of a problem than actually good for a team. because you can't really hear the other guys' opinions because he's constantly like, oh, like drink, 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 like just like constantly going. But he has a true passion for the game, and he does his consistency wise, he does really well.
Yeah, and I think you talked a little bit about it, but Smoothie, is one of my favorite players. I really like him.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about it before with it is great to communicate. There's always problems if you over communicate because, as you just said, it drowns out other people who could be making necessary calls or necessary information things out there. But again, I still think at the end of the day, when it comes to how this matchup rolls out, because of Crown not being there, sorry about Zyra, but because of Crown not being there, I actually think that FlyQuest could take this game. Simply just because you're going to have the full roster for FlyQuest while you have a substitute in CLG, and that could throw off how the team plays out overall.
Yeah, no, I agree. We could potentially, I mean, we're going to possibly get a 2-0 FlyQuest here in week 1. And for the simple fact that Crown is not there. Like, if Crown was there, I'm taking CLG all day. 10 out of 10 times if Crown is there, I'm taking him over FlyQuest. But with him not being there, I do have to give the edge to FlyQuest. I could still see it potentially getting close because of a slip up of Wild Turtle or something in a massive critical team fight. But either way, I still see FlyQuest taking that.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a steamroll of FlyQuest or anything. I think it's definitely going to be close, and it's going to come down to maybe an objective or a Baron play that's going to fall. But I think just because, again, not having that core is going to be the biggest problem. So, Kyle, for day 2, what is the biggest game you're looking at?
Are you ready to get evil? I'm definitely looking forward to the Evil Geniuses being back and going against this new Dig being back. So you got 2 brands coming back. It's really exciting. Obviously, this is day 2, so you're going to already see these teams, but 2 older brands coming back, squaring off against each other. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how Evil Geniuses can perform Cloud9 2.0 against this 2.0 or 2 point whatever $1 million Huni team. So it'll be really interesting. I'm looking forward to see how well this Evil Genius team overall can perform, having Svenskeren and Zazel and Kumo all being part of Cloud9 already. They already have something together. I still don't. I'm not the biggest fan of the Zazel Bang bot lane. I just feel them 2 together are going to kind of get steamrolled every matchup because I just feel like they're too passive. They're too they just wait too long, and that combination I'm not too stoked about. Even though I do like Zazel and I obviously like Bang, but just gel wise, I think just that bot lane is always gonna be against them. But and then like I said, I'm interested to see how that ends up being, and then how much control does Huni have in this? Like Huni making the picks that he wants to play because he wants to play that. Like he's getting paid $2 million. How much of this team is all Huni? So that has my curiosity as well.
Yeah. So for me, I was glad that you brought this out because I did want to talk about this squad. And by this squad, I really mean the Dignitas squad. Because I know we talked about it before, but in our previous talks, we had said that, again, this is a team that's filled with high fan base players, Dignitas trying to get a good fan base behind them again as they enter the league, as their first season back in the league, and of course having a brand change. The look is different than the old Dignitas, things of that nature. But as always, it is tough for a team to perform well, or in my opinion, to get a huge fan base behind them if they don't perform well. And I just don't see this team currently being a great a great team to compete in this league, and even against a team like Evil Geniuses, where we talked a little bit before, where I think that this team is going to be good. But I think that in week one they could stumble just because it is a whole new team. Basically, the only players, as you said, that have a history with each other is the Cloud9 players. But I think that they could just stumble as they're getting more Kumo getting a chance to fully play, fully start. Svenskeren obviously playing with a new mid laner, so he has to learn the synergy with Jizuke. And then in the bot lane, as you said, you have Bang, who is, at least last split, was fairly passive, not the Bang that we, again, were used to when he was playing in the LCK. Going back to it, though, I just don't see Dignitas being able to perform very well in this matchup. And so I think we're going to see hype around this team to start, as a fan base wise, hype around this team to start, and we literally could see after this week one that hype drop like a roller coaster to the bottom. Like it just bottoms out, because people are going to see that this could be two games of being steamrolled. You know, they play CLG in the first week, then they play Evil Geniuses, and Evil Geniuses, no one is saying right now that they're going to be a contending team for a world spot. So if they get blown out in 2 straight games, I think that you're going to be looking at this Dignitas as what it is and what it will be as the season rolls out.
Yeah, exactly. And this will be Evil Genius's first game on the Sunday matchup. So I'm looking forward to see how they, as overall as a team, they could perform. I almost want to give it to. I'm going to give the edge to Evil Geniuses just for the fact of I just like that team better. I don't know, just lineup wise, I just like it better. I just feel like it's overall a better lineup. I will say, I like Diggs' Academy team.
Yeah,
I kind of wish that was a roster. Lorlo, Acadian, Dominate. I think you put Johnson for Phoenix and Owe. I think that's a team right there. Like, I feel that should be a team. And I almost like their Academy team, other than Phoenix being in the ADC role, more than I do their main roster.
I completely agree with you. Their Academy team, I think, is a solid lineup. And again, I think that their starting squad is just for fan base, just to get people
100%. That's why I felt Sneaky could have gone there, because you imagine the fan base coming with Sneaky too, and there's a lot of talks about Sneaky. If you have Afromu playing with Sneaky, which they're really good friends and duo together with Froggen and Hooney, that I mean, that's 100%. All fans just join us, buy all our merch.
Yep, that's exactly what it would scream. So Kyle, let's now focus on, because I already talked about. Sorry, I'm having brain farts. So Kyle, Monday, there's only 2 games to choose from. Which game are you looking at?
You know what? We talked about Evil Geniuses already, but I will talk about that matchup. I will save for, because we haven't talked about the TSM yet. We'll save them for that, for you to start it out. But I just to kind of talk about 100T a little bit. They there was a lot of changes within the organization itself. With Papa Smithy coming in and changing the team around. So this is a good game to kind of see what they could do against the Evil Geniuses team that we're not really too sure of, and 100T has to play Golden Guardians in the first day. I didn't want to say their team just because that team is Golden Glue's on there, and I just but 100 so this is a little bit better matchup for them, I feel like, against the Evil Genius, especially if EG comes out and plays really well against Dig and destroys them. I would really look forward to seeing how this 100T lineup can perform against Evil Geniuses. obviously we know some days amazing at top lane. You have Meteos coming in with playing with Cody Sun again. Cody Sun's numbers were really, really good. That's a dude that if he could stay chill, he's a really good player. I'm curious on how Roma adjusts to coming over. So there's a lot of stuff I'm just more so curious about with this team than anything, and how well they could perform and look on the main stage as a whole.
I agree with you 100% with being interested in this team. Obviously, speaking of the fantasy league before, I chose 100 Thieves as my team in my lineup, and I picked Meteos as my jungle, mainly because, of course, of the dollar amount that he costs in the league. But I just think, again, they have really good matchups to start the season off. It's a good chance to see what this team can do, how this team can gel. And for me, I'm a huge Someday fan. I like Meteos. I like Cody Sun. But the guy that I'm like really looking forward to, and like the person that I really want to see succeed, is Ryoma. I just want him to succeed, and I do think that this is a fairly good squad to have him in, to have a chance, because you have some solid players. Like, no one is a standout besides Someday. Of course, Someday is a standout, but you don't have any like standouts. But you don't have a person that you point to, in my opinion, that you're like, he's a weak link, and that's going to make this team falter. Of course, there were times where that could have been Meteos, but Meteos has really, in my opinion, revitalized his career in recent splits to show that he is still capable of being a good jungler, a good solid core. He's starting to be more of like an Smithy-esque person, where he may not have a game that carries the things, but he's never going to have a game where you just look at him and you're like, dang, that was awful. Like, he's always just going to be kind of that mid-tier. Not as good as Smithy, not filling the same exact level as Smithy, but I think a similar play. And I just think Ryoma also has the great opportunity of opening against what we both consider one of the bottoms, if not the bottom team in Golden Guardians, and then an Evil Genius squad that's going to take some time, I think, to gel. I think that's a great time to open up, and also against two mid laners that have struggled recently. So again, I think that that's a great opening for Ryoma, and I think that's a great opening for 100 Thieves.
Yeah, and you talk about Meteos, thinking about it now, truly thinking about it. Now that Sneaky's not playing this split, there is one Cloud9 player playing still to this day that came from the OG squad, and that's Meteos. So that kind of tells you something. As much as I know Sneaky can continue to play if he wants to and when he wants to, but I think Meteos, as you said, really stepped up his game, and I think Smithy is the perfect guy for you to kind of compare him to. Maybe not as good as Smithy, as you were saying, but overall play style, very the glue of the team, the guy that can make plays when need be, and really gel a team together. Meteos has really become that glue for these orgs, and I mean his play has gotten better overall.
Oh, yeah.
So I think Smithy's very much a really good comparison for Meteos, and I actually really like that comparison.
Yeah, like I said, he's really revitalized his career recently, and that's saying something. Kyle, I mean, I've already given who I think's going to win it, which is 100 Thieves. Who do you think's going to win it?
I think it's gonna be 100 Thieves as well. I overall I like their matchups better, and their lineup wise, like I said, Evil Geniuses, I like some of their parts, but overall, I feel as a whole squad, I agree. I have to agree. I like 100 T's a bit more.
And then let's just real quick. I wasn't going to talk about it because again, it is only 2 games on Monday. But let's just talk about the squad real quick. And that is of course TSM against Team Liquid in the final game on Monday. In my eyes, the attention is all on 2 players, which is of course Kabi and Dardoch. They're the attention on that game, regardless of Team Liquid and who's jungling for them is just going to be on those two players, because you are going up against, again, the repeat champions in Team Liquid, and this is a squad that TSM hopes will compete for a championship and get back to Worlds. So, Kyle, I will start with you. What do you look at, or what are you paying attention to for this game against Team Liquid?
Man, I would like to say, obviously, I'm gonna say Dardoch right now, but it's hard to put Dardoch versus Pole Belter, like an actual like role versus role part. But obviously, my eyes are on Dardoch and how well he gels with his role model and the guy he's always looked up to, Bjergsen. I mean, he's been a huge Bjergsen fan forever, and that's all he's wanted to do his whole career is play with Bjergsen, and he finally gets this opportunity. But I really want to see as well, though, Kabe, Biofrost. I mean, it's so hard to get away from double with Core JJ. It's so hard to. Like you said, they're the best two. They're the best bot lane in the LCS. See Kabe and a really good Biofrost that's really stepped up his game. I'm really interested to see how Kabe comes up and competes against the best ADC in NA. I mean, ADC versus ADC, Kabe versus a guy you have, you're a huge fan of itself, going against the best ADC in NA. That matchup alone, Kabe versus Double Lift, is something to look forward to in this.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm really excited for that matchup, and that's why for me, that is the thing that I'm most focusing on. Of course, as I talked about, you have to talk about Dardoch. They're going to be the two biggest focuses on this squad, but that bot lane is what has my attention. Again, I wish there is a cam on lanes like they did. They always had that second channel, and I wish it was just on the bot lane, the marksman cam, so to speak, because I just really would like to see how these two play up against each other throughout the game. And at the same time, it is, again, if you want to compete, if you want to be a team that at the end of the season is holding up a championship, whether it's the spring split or the summer split, you're going to have to overcome or at least go even with Double Lift and Core JJ. They are the best bot lane. And so Kabe and Biofrost have that potential. They really do. We've seen it. We know how good Biofrost can be, and we already, or at least for me, and I know that you slowly turn around to seeing the truth, the light, what it is, Kabe. But Kabe is arguably one of the best ADCs as well, at least was in EU. We'll see if he will buck the trend of these great LEC or EU ADCs coming over to North America and being good, or stumbling, I should say, because we need him to buck the trend. But I just really think it's going to be a good game. I won't be surprised if Team Liquid loses this one because they don't have Broxa. I will not be surprised if they lose this game for that reason. And that's not to say that at the end of the year or end of the season that I would be like, oh, they only lost because they didn't have Broxa. I mean, it's week one. Anything can happen. Anything can change. And we've already seen, even though Team Liquid has been a very dominant team, best of one situations, you can always lose. And Team Liquid has not went every split when they've won being undefeated. Like, only Immortals and Fnatic have really done that. Every team stumbles at some point.
And TL's built to play. TL is a team that's built to just play to the playoffs, win playoffs, and get to Worlds and compete in Worlds. That's what TL is. That's what they're there for. And just a quick brief mention, because we didn't mention his name at all. Broken Blade. I'm rooting for. As much as I'm against TSM, I'm against TL too. But as much as I am against TSM, I really hope Broken Blade can show what he did when he first came over in the spring split of last year. And I'm rooting for the kid. Too many TSM fans completely dumped on him this offseason. And I personally, I want to see him succeed.
TSM fans are like Cowboys fans. They jump the bandwagon as soon as it happens.
Exactly.
And I do want to ask this real quick, just for the listeners. I already know what you're going to answer, so I'm going to hate myself asking this. Is which team are you more against, TSM or TL?
TL.
I knew it. So I'm going to say I think TL wins it. Like I said, I won't be surprised if TL loses it, but I will give who I think is going to win. I'm going to put TL. Who do you think is going to win this game?
I think it's going to be a close game and messy at times, but just still overall, I think double lifting them are still too much. I think I give it to TL as well.
All right. Well, we'll find out shortly because these games are all happening this weekend. Of course, Monday is not really a weekend, but I'm still going to consider it this weekend. So we have a lot to look forward to, a lot of excitement, and especially, again, it's the beginning of the season, so everyone thinks their team is going to come out on top. I know Kyle is going to say that, even though we all know that's not true. But no. So anyway, I'm really excited for this. I can't wait. And we, of course, will bring you guys more things to come when this all wraps up. But for the last time on this episode, my name is Jeremy, a.k.a. Darsay.
And I'm Kyle Gloria, a.k.a. Kairu.
And be sure to tune in. As always, we'll continue to bring